Ladies and gentlemen, life has a way of teaching us lessons that no classroom can ever hold. With every passing year, every storm weathered, every mountain climbed, we begin to see the world differently. And for those who have crossed that beautiful milestone of 60, their vision is no longer about chasing noise. It's about protecting peace. You see, new findings might explain their distance, but the truth behind that distance is deeper than research. It's not that they've given up on the world. No, it's that they've learned to value their time. They've learned that not every conversation deserves a response. Not every battle deserves a soldier, and not every door needs to be opened twice. When they sit in silence, it's not isolation, it's reflection. They've watched generations rise, fall, repeat. They've seen trends come and go like seasons. And through it all, they've found strength in stillness. They keep their distance, not because they're disconnected, but because they finally understand what truly matters. They choose their circles carefully. They invest their energy wisely. They no longer chase validation because they've already earned their place in the story. And if you listen closely, truly listen, you'll realize their quiet presence carries more weight than the loudest crowd. For the younger ones watching, don't mistake their silence for weakness. It's wisdom wrapped in calm. It's peace earned through battles you haven't fought yet. They are living proof that maturity isn't about age. It's about understanding what's worth your time. Experience is the invisible thread that weaves through the lives of people over 60. It shapes their perspective, guides their actions, and influences the quiet choices they make every single day. When we talk about the value of experience, we're not just referring to the number of years lived, but the depth of moments endured. Each hardship, each triumph, each loss, and each victory leaves behind a lesson that builds a kind of wisdom books can't teach and lectures can't explain. People who have crossed that threshold have witnessed enough to understand that life is both fragile and resilient. They've seen dreams bloom and wither, relationships form and fade, and trends rise and disappear. They know that nothing stays the same forever, and because of that understanding, they carry themselves differently. Younger generations often move fast. They want answers now, results today, recognition immediately. But those over 60 have learned that some answers take years to reveal themselves, and some results come only after patience, discipline, and faith. They have endured long seasons where silence was their only companion, and from that silence, they have drawn strength. Their experience teaches them to choose carefully what they give their energy to, because they understand that not everything deserves a reaction. This is not indifference, it is discernment. They know the cost of wasted time because they have lived enough to look back and see where time slipped away on things that did not matter. Their distance often reflects this maturity. They are no longer interested in the chaos of every passing debate, every trending topic, or every noisy distraction. They've been there, they've seen it, and they know that peace is more valuable than constant engagement. Experience gives them perspective. When a storm comes, they don't panic the way someone facing it for the first time might. They've been through storms before. They've felt the winds, endured the rain, and stood firm through seasons that tested their spirit. That history becomes their strength. It allows them to view current situations not with fear, but with calm observation. They know that storms pass, seasons change, and the world keeps turning. This understanding creates a sense of steadiness that others may not yet possess. It's why their voices often carry a quiet power. When they speak, they don't need to shout, because their words are backed by decades of lived truth. The value of experience also shows in their ability to understand people. They have interacted with countless personalities over the years. They've seen masks, motives, and genuine hearts. They've been betrayed, loved, respected, and misunderstood. These encounters have sharpened their instincts. They can read a situation without needing every detail explained. They can sense sincerity and detect deception in ways younger people might overlook. This isn't magic, it's the result of time. It's the result of living long enough to see patterns repeat and learning to trust intuition built through real encounters, not assumptions. Another part of their experience is their relationship with loss. By the time someone reaches 60, they've likely lost friends, loved ones, opportunities, and perhaps even dreams they once held close. They've walked through grief and emerged with a deeper understanding of what matters. They know that life is short and moments are precious. This makes them more protective of their space and their time. They're less likely to tolerate negativity, drama, or meaningless conflict. They'd rather step back than be consumed by things that drain their spirit. Their distance often isn't a wall, it's a shield. It's not about pushing people away, but about honoring the limited time they have left by focusing on what truly enriches their lives. Their experience also allows them to appreciate simplicity in ways younger generations sometimes overlook. While many chase excitement, they find joy in quiet mornings, meaningful conversations, a shared meal, or simply watching the world move. They have learned that the grandest moments often happen in silence, not in the spotlight. This doesn't mean they don't care about the world. It means they've learned where real joy lives. They understand that rushing from one thing to the next often leads to missing what's right in front of you. They've slowed down not because they can't keep up, but because they no longer feel the need to. When people over 60 keep their distance, part of it comes from recognizing how their experiences set them apart. They've walked paths that younger people haven't yet stepped on. They've faced questions that don't have quick answers. They've wrestled with decisions that shape entire lifetimes. These experiences give them a quiet confidence. They don't need validation in the same way they might have when they were younger. They don't seek to prove themselves constantly because their life itself is proof of endurance. Every wrinkle tells a story, every scar holds a lesson, every quiet smile carries a memory of something conquered. For younger generations, it's easy to misinterpret their distance as disinterest or disengagement. But in truth, their distance often comes from a place of knowing. They have already fought the battles, some are just beginning. They have already chased the things, some are just starting to pursue. They understand that many things that seem urgent now may not matter later. Their experience allows them to see beyond the surface, to look at life not through the lens of the moment, but through the lens of time. That perspective is rare and powerful. This value of experience is something worth listening to, observing, and learning from. Their distance isn't a sign that they've stopped caring. It's often a sign that they've learned to care differently. They lead not with noise, but with presence. They influence not by force, but by example. They have learned that the loudest voice is not always the wisest one, and sometimes the most powerful impact comes from standing back, watching, and letting life teach its lessons. Their distance, shaped by experience, is both a reflection of the journeys they've walked and a quiet invitation for others to understand why. Silence has a language that few truly understand, and for many people over 60, this language speaks louder than words ever could. When they keep their distance, it isn't always because they don't care or have lost interest. More often, it's because they have learned the power of observation and reflection. They've spent decades speaking, engaging, debating, and trying to be understood. With time, they realize that not every situation requires their voice. Not every moment needs their presence, and not every battle is worth their involvement. Their silence becomes a form of communication, one that carries wisdom, patience, and a quiet strength that those who are younger may not immediately recognize. In a world that constantly rewards noise, where people are always talking, posting, reacting, and sharing, the silence of older individuals can seem unusual. But to them, silence is not emptiness. It is full of meaning. It's the space where thoughts are processed deeply, where emotions settle, and where clarity is found. When they choose to step back and observe, rather than immediately respond, they're not being passive, they're being intentional. Over the years, they've learned that reacting too quickly can lead to misunderstandings, wasted energy, and unnecessary conflict. Their silence reflects an understanding that sometimes the best way to understand a situation is not by interrupting it, but by watching it unfold. They've witnessed enough human behavior to know that words can be deceptive. People often say what they think others want to hear, not what's real. They've seen promises made and broken, truths twisted, and emotions manipulated. Through these experiences, they've developed a kind of inner radar. They listen beyond the words, they observe the tone, the timing, the body language, and the patterns. Silence gives them the space to take it all in without being swayed by surface impressions. They've learned that what's not said often reveals more than what is. This skill of listening between the lines doesn't come overnight. It's the result of years of living, learning, and paying attention. Their silence is also a form of self-respect. They've reached a point in life where they no longer feel the need to prove themselves to everyone. They don't have to win every argument or have the last word. They've realized that peace is often more valuable than being right. So, instead of engaging in endless debates or emotional back and forths, they step back. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. They've learned that silence can protect their energy and maintain their inner calm in situations that might otherwise drain them. Where a younger person might feel the need to respond instantly to criticism or misunderstanding, Someone with more life experience knows that silence can sometimes say, "I understand more than you think," without uttering a single word. In their silence, there's also an element of reflection. People over 60 often carry countless memories, both joyful and painful. Their quiet moments are not empty pauses. They are opportunities to look inward, to remember, to assess, and to connect their present actions with the lessons of their past. They think before they speak, not because they lack words, but because they understand the weight that words can carry. They've seen how careless words can destroy relationships and how thoughtful words can heal wounds. Their silence gives them the space to choose carefully. There's another layer to their silence: the awareness that time is precious. When you're younger, it can feel like you have endless time to explain yourself, to fix misunderstandings, to engage in every conversation. But as the years pass, people begin to understand that time is limited. They become more selective about where they place their attention. They no longer waste words on those who aren't listening, and they don't try to convince those who've already made up their minds. Instead, they choose silence, not out of resignation, but out of clarity. They know that some people only understand through experience, not explanation, and that sometimes the most powerful message is delivered by stepping back and letting time do the teaching. Their silence can also be a mirror. It reflects the behavior of others more clearly than arguments ever could. When someone speaks to them with disrespect or misunderstanding, and they respond with calm quietness, it often forces the other person to reflect on their own behavior. Silence creates space that words can't. It allows truth to echo louder. People over 60 have seen this play out in personal relationships, workplaces, and communities. They've watched silence shift conversations, disarm aggression, and reveal hidden intentions. Through the years, they've learned that silence is not the absence of power. It is often the purest form of it. When they keep their distance and choose not to speak immediately, it's often because they've developed a deep trust in observation. They believe that time reveals what words try to hide. Instead of rushing to intervene or explain, they stand back, watching patterns emerge. Behaviors repeat and truths surface. They understand that some situations resolve themselves better without interference. They have seen how speaking too soon can disrupt a natural unfolding, and how silence allows clarity to settle in on its own. Their silence can also be protective. Many of them have been through phases in life where they shared openly, only to have their words misused or misunderstood. They've experienced betrayal, gossip, and misrepresentation. Over time, they learned that silence can safeguard their dignity and keep their personal truths from being twisted. They've realized that not everyone deserves access to their inner world, and that silence creates healthy boundaries without needing confrontation. For younger generations, their silence may seem cold or distant, but if one looks closer, it's filled with intention. It's not a sign of detachment, it's a sign of deep understanding. They are no longer controlled by the urge to respond to everything, and that in itself is a mark of strength. While the world grows louder with every passing year, their quiet presence stands out like a calm center in the middle of a storm. It's a presence that doesn't need to announce itself because it already speaks volumes without a single word. With age comes a shift in priorities, and one of the most profound changes people over 60 experience is the desire to protect their peace. After decades of navigating challenges, relationships, responsibilities, and unpredictable turns, they begin to see clearly what truly matters. Protecting their peace is not about isolation or withdrawal. It's about understanding that emotional well-being is a treasure worth guarding. They've spent years giving their time and energy to countless people, causes, and situations. Over time, they've learned that not everything deserves a reaction. Not every argument deserves engagement, and not every presence deserves access to their inner world. Their decision to keep a distance often stems from a deep understanding that peace is hard, earned, and easily lost, if not protected with intention. Younger individuals often move through life trying to juggle everything at once. They say yes to people and situations, even when it drains them. They get pulled into unnecessary conflicts because they feel obligated to prove themselves or keep everyone happy. People over 60 have lived through those years. They've been stretched thin by trying to be everywhere, do everything, and satisfy everyone's expectations. Eventually, they reached a point where they understood that constantly giving away their peace leaves them empty. Now, their focus is different. They choose where to be, who to engage with, and what to invest their time in with greater care. This doesn't make them indifferent, it makes them wise. They have experienced how certain environments can drain their spirit. Load negativity, constant drama, gossip, and endless complaints once surrounded them in various stages of life. Maybe they were part of workplaces filled with competition and stress, or family dynamics that demanded endless emotional labor. They've seen how being in such spaces affects their mood, health, and overall outlook on life. With age, they learn to step away from what disturbs their inner balance. They no longer feel obligated to stay in spaces that disrupt their calm. They'd rather spend their time with a few genuine souls than in a crowd that exhausts them. Protecting their peace also means understanding their emotional limits. In their younger years, they might have pushed themselves beyond exhaustion to meet expectations. They stayed up late worrying about things they couldn't control, engaged in debates that led nowhere, and carried emotional burdens that weren't theirs to hold. Now, they recognize that their mental and emotional health deserve as much care as their physical well-being. They set boundaries not to keep people out, but to keep their peace in. If someone brings negativity, they quietly distance themselves. If a conversation leads to unnecessary conflict, they choose silence over argument. They no longer chase closure in every situation because they've realized that sometimes peace comes from letting go rather than holding on. Another reason they protect their peace is because they've learned the value of quiet. In their younger years, life was often filled with noise, both literal and emotional. There were ambitions to chase, responsibilities to fulfill, and expectations to meet. But as time passes, they begin to cherish stillness, a quiet morning, a simple walk, sitting by a window and watching the world move. These moments hold more meaning than chaotic interactions. Their distance is often a deliberate act of choosing tranquility over unnecessary stimulation. It's not that they dislike people, it's that they value the serenity that comes with selective engagement. They've also learned that not every relationship is meant to be maintained forever. Some connections served a purpose in earlier chapters of their lives, but as they grow older, they understand that forcing relationships that no longer align with their peace only creates tension. They've become more comfortable letting go of people who drain them, even if those connections once held significance. This letting go isn't done with bitterness, it's done with grace. They release without resentment because they know peace is more important than maintaining bonds that no longer bring mutual growth. People over 60 often have a sharper sense of time's value. They understand they don't have endless years ahead, and this awareness makes them fiercely protective of their mental space. They won't waste time on petty arguments, toxic dynamics, or situations that leave them emotionally exhausted. They'd rather invest in meaningful conversations, genuine relationships, personal passions, and moments that bring joy. Their distance often reflects this conscious shift. Where they once might have tolerated chaos to maintain appearances or avoid conflict, now they prioritize their own calm above everything else. Their approach to conflict changes too. In their younger years, they might have felt compelled to defend themselves constantly, prove their point, or fight for validation. With time, they realize that peace doesn't require winning every argument. Sometimes the most powerful response is walking away. This doesn't mean they're afraid of confrontation. It means they understand that some battles simply aren't worth the cost of their peace. They pick their battles wisely, focusing on what truly matters and letting go of what doesn't. Their calmness is not weakness, it's control over their inner world. Protecting their peace also extends to how they consume information and interact with the world. In a world flooded with constant news, opinions, and digital noise, they become selective about what they allow into their minds. They don't need to participate in every discussion or absorb every piece of negativity. They filter what they expose themselves to because they know that mental clutter leads to emotional unrest. They prefer to focus on what uplifts, inspires, or informs meaningfully, rather than drowning in endless distractions. This intentional distance can sometimes be misunderstood by younger people who equate constant engagement with care. But people over 60 understand that love and connection don't always require constant presence. Sometimes, stepping back is the best way to maintain harmony. They know that protecting their peace allows them to show up as their best selves for the people and moments that truly matter. Their distance is often a quiet declaration. I've fought enough unnecessary battles. Now, I choose calm. The choices people over 60 make often reflect a lifetime of lessons that younger generations have yet to fully grasp. Every decision, every boundary, every moment of silence they embrace is shaped by years of experiences, both painful and enlightening, that have refined their understanding of life. Their distance isn't random. It's rooted in what they've learned through decades of trial and error, success and failure, love and loss. These lessons aren't taught in classrooms or found in books. They are earned through living. When they step back, slow down, or choose to observe rather than engage, they are often embodying principles they've gathered over a lifetime, principles that hold valuable guidance for those who are still learning how to navigate their own paths. One of the most significant lessons they've learned is the importance of prioritizing what truly matters. When you're younger, everything feels urgent. There's pressure to chase every opportunity, respond to every message, prove yourself in every interaction. But as people grow older, they realize that not everything deserves their time and attention. They've seen how chasing too many things at once leads to exhaustion without fulfillment. They've learned to focus their energy on what aligns with their values, their peace, and their well-being. This shift teaches younger generations that fulfillment doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing what matters most with clarity and intention. They've also learned that not every conflict is worth fighting. Earlier in life, they may have felt the need to correct every misunderstanding, defend themselves against every accusation, and fight for recognition in every situation. Over time, they've experienced how many of those battles only drain emotional energy without changing much. They've discovered that letting go is often more powerful than holding on. They choose their battles carefully now, not because they're weaker, but because they're wiser. This teaches younger people an important truth: strength isn't always about fighting loudly. Sometimes it's about walking away quietly and protecting your peace. Another lesson their actions reflect is the value of patience. People over 60 have lived through countless cycles, economic ups and downs, cultural shifts, personal transformations. They've watched trends rise and fall, relationships evolve, and dreams transform over time. Through these experiences, they've learned that life rarely unfolds according to personal timelines. Good things take time, and forcing outcomes often leads to unnecessary frustration. Their calm approach to challenges reflects this understanding. While younger individuals may become anxious when things don't happen immediately, older generations know that patience often brings clarity and better results than impulsive action ever could. Their choices also reflect lessons about self-worth. Many of them spent earlier chapters of their lives seeking validation from others, trying to be liked, accepted, or understood by everyone. As they grow older, they learn that self-worth cannot be built on external approval. They become more comfortable in their own skin, less dependent on the opinions of others. This newfound confidence often shows in their decision to distance themselves from toxic people or environments. They don't tolerate disrespect or unnecessary drama because they've learned their value doesn't diminish when others fail to see it. This lesson serves as a quiet example for younger generations, reminding them that self-respect often requires stepping back rather than staying in spaces that don't honor who you are. They've also understood the impermanence of life in ways younger people may not fully grasp yet. Over the years, they've experienced loss of loved ones, opportunities, health, or time. These moments have taught them that nothing is guaranteed, and holding on to bitterness, grudges, or meaningless pursuits wastes precious moments. This understanding shapes their attitude toward others. They forgive more easily, not because they forget, but because they don't want resentment to take up space in their hearts. They spend more time with people who bring genuine joy and less with those who bring unnecessary tension. Their selective presence becomes a reflection of their lesson that time is too valuable to waste on what doesn't bring peace or purpose. Another powerful lesson their distance reflects is the importance of listening. In their younger years, they may have spoken more, argued more, or tried harder to be understood. Over time, they've realized that listening, truly listening, often reveals more than speaking ever could. By stepping back, they give themselves the space to observe patterns, hear what's not being said, and understand situations more deeply. Their silence often isn't a lack of opinion. It's a demonstration of how much can be learned when you don't rush to respond. Younger generations, often immersed in fast communication, can learn from this deliberate approach to observation and understanding. They've also learned the difference between solitude and loneliness. When younger, many fear being alone, associating silence with emptiness. But with time, they've discovered the richness of solitude. They understand that spending time alone doesn't mean being isolated. It can mean reconnecting with oneself, finding peace, and gaining clarity. This is why they may choose to keep their distance sometimes, not because they're avoiding people, but because they've learned the importance of nurturing their inner world. This lesson is particularly valuable for younger generations living in an age of constant noise and distraction. Perhaps one of the most profound lessons reflected in their behavior is the understanding that life is not about pleasing everyone. They've lived long enough to know that no matter what you do, someone will misunderstand, someone will disagree, someone will criticize. Once, that realization might have hurt, but now it liberates them. They no longer shape their choices around everyone's expectations. They live more authentically, aligning their actions with their personal truths rather than seeking universal approval. Their distance can sometimes simply mean, I no longer need to explain myself to be at peace. For those who are younger, these lessons may not always be immediately visible, but they are present in the way older individuals carry themselves. Their calmness in chaos, their silence in conflict, their selectiveness in relationships. All of it is rooted in decades of lived experience. They are living examples of wisdom that cannot be rushed. Observing their choices closely can offer invaluable guidance. The way they navigate life, often quietly and deliberately, is itself a form of teaching, even if they never speak a word. Understanding the reasons behind why people over 60 keep their distance opens the door to building deeper, more meaningful intergenerational respect. Too often, their silence or withdrawal is misinterpreted as disinterest, stubbornness, or isolation, when in truth, it reflects a lifetime of wisdom, discernment, and shifting priorities. When younger generations take the time to truly understand their choices instead of judging them, a bridge is built between experience and energy, between reflection and ambition. Respect grows not through forced closeness, but through genuine understanding of why they live the way they do. Connection doesn't always require constant conversation. Sometimes it simply requires listening, observing, and appreciating their perspective. Many younger people are accustomed to fast responses, constant availability, and a high level of interaction. They live in a world of quick messages, instant updates, and immediate validation. When they encounter older individuals who prefer quiet spaces, slower conversations, or selective engagement, they can easily mistake it for emotional distance. But the reality is that people over 60 have moved into a phase of life where they value intentionality over intensity. Their way of connecting is different, not lesser. They don't need to be constantly present to care deeply. Their love and wisdom often show through small, thoughtful actions, calm presence, and the way they observe and support without demanding attention. Recognizing this difference is the first step toward mutual respect. Connection through respect requires humility from younger generations. It means acknowledging that the older generation has experienced life from perspectives they have not yet encountered. They've lived through different eras, adapted to changing times, faced challenges without the technology and convenience many take for granted today. Their ways of thinking may seem slower or more traditional, but these perspectives are built on real experiences, not theories. When younger individuals take the time to ask, to listen, and to understand why they see the world the way they do, they often uncover lessons that can shape their own lives in powerful ways. Respecting their distance doesn't mean leaving them alone. It means recognizing that their pace, boundaries, and silence carry value. For many people over 60, distance is a form of self-care. They've reached a point where they've learned to protect their emotional energy, their routines, and their peace. When younger generations understand this, they can engage with them without overwhelming or intruding. Instead of demanding constant presence, they can create spaces where older individuals feel safe, comfortable, and valued. A simple conversation that happens without pressure can mean more to them than frequent interactions that feel forced. When respect is present, they're more likely to open up, share their stories, and offer their wisdom willingly, because they feel seen and understood rather than judged or dismissed. Respect also means accepting that not every older person wants to engage in the same way. Some may enjoy deep conversations, but prefer them infrequently. Others might connect best through shared activities rather than words. Some may be more private due to past experiences, and their distance is their way of feeling secure. Understanding these nuances allows younger generations to approach them with empathy instead of assumptions. It's about recognizing that connection is not a one-size-fits-all experience. It requires patience and a willingness to meet them where they are, rather than expecting them to adjust to modern social rhythms. For the older generation, feeling respected often means being listened to without interruption or dismissal. Over the years, many of them have experienced moments where their voices were overlooked in favor of newer ideas or louder opinions. When younger people showed genuine interest in their perspectives, by asking thoughtful questions, giving them space to share, and valuing their responses, it creates a powerful sense of mutual recognition. This kind of respect doesn't just honor their past, it strengthens the present relationship. It tells them, your experiences matter, your voice matters, your presence matters. Mutual respect also grows when both sides let go of stereotypes. Younger generations sometimes assume that older individuals are out of touch or resistant to change. Older individuals sometimes see younger people as impatient or disrespectful. When both sides step back from these assumptions and focus instead on understanding, something shifts. Younger individuals can learn that the older generation's caution comes from wisdom, not fear. And older individuals can see that the younger generation's energy comes from ambition, not recklessness. Recognizing the value in each other's approach to life creates balance. The distance older individuals keep then becomes less of a wall and more of a rhythm that younger people can learn to respect and move alongside. Connection through respect also involves recognizing the cultural and emotional roles older individuals hold. They are often carriers of family traditions, cultural values, and personal histories that younger generations may not fully grasp until later in life. Their distance sometimes reflects their quiet role as observers and keepers of stories, rather than active participants in every moment. When younger people approach them with curiosity, asking about their experiences, their lessons, and their views, they often find that these individuals have profound insights to share. Their distance doesn't mean they have nothing to give. It often means they are waiting for someone to genuinely ask. Respecting their distance also allows for space to grow independently while remaining connected. It's not about pulling them into every part of a younger person's life, but about creating meaningful moments that matter. A respectful connection might look like sitting quietly together, sharing a simple meal, listening to a story without rushing, or simply acknowledging their presence with gratitude. It's in these seemingly small acts that deep bonds are formed. The older generation doesn't always seek loud declarations of love or constant communication. Often, they seek to feel valued for who they are and what they've lived through. When younger generations approach their distance with empathy, patience, and genuine interest, they build relationships based on trust and shared humanity rather than expectation. This kind of understanding transforms distance from something misunderstood into something meaningful. It creates a bridge where both sides can walk toward each other, not by changing who they are, but by appreciating each other for the roles they play in the larger story of life. When we look closely at why people over 60 choose distance, we discover something far deeper than silence or separation. We find wisdom shaped by years of experience, strength born from storms weathered, and peace earned through battles both seen and unseen. Their quiet choices reflect lessons many of us are still learning about time, energy, boundaries, and what truly matters. If we take the time to understand rather than judge, to listen rather than assume, we open the door to a powerful connection between generations. Their distance isn't a barrier, it's a message. And if we learn to hear it, we not only honor their journey, we enrich our own. Takioyu.